Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Monday, August 4th, 6:40 in the evening, and this will be our daily coverage video for the Roundhill 0DTE Covered Call Strategy Funds, QDTE for the NASDAQ 100, XDTE for the S&P 500, and RDTE for the Russell 2000. These are all income-focused funds. They pay out on a weekly basis, and we go through their trades. They make a same-day trade every morning, and then we go through to just analyze how the trade went and see how the funds are doing every evening after the market's closed. If you don't follow me already, I'm on X on ETF_Inspector1. Each morning of where the market's open, I post the trades that were made by these funds in case you're invested in the funds and you want to see how your money is doing, or in case you are also a day trader and you'd like to see where the pros are trading. I'm not recommending or that you do or don't do that. I'm just providing information there. So there's our post from this morning. It came out a little late today, not on my part. They waited. I think everybody was expecting a little bit of a bounce today with the overreaction on Friday. And so they did not do the first thing in the morning. They kind of got a feel for the market first before selling it, based on how late the trade information came out. In case you are looking for it, you go to Roundhill's websites. You'd have to go Income ETFs and then click on the one that you're looking for. This is QDTE. Scroll down a little ways, and you've got intraday trades. That brings up the file, and then this one, download CSV, brings up the holdings, and these are how I put my spreadsheets together. All right, we'll start with the trades. So although they waited to see how things were going, it looks like they still did not make the right decision on the trade. So for QDTE, they sold a call. Well, they sold 365 calls at strike price 23,160, 23,160. The NASDAQ 100 ended at 23,188.61 cents. They have an agreement where these are going to be cash settled, so they don't get assigned, and they don't intraday trade them, so they won't close them out in the middle of the day. So they just cash settle. So they collected $17.29 in the morning when they made the trade, or $631,000. That was $17.29 per share. Unfortunately, with the stock price closing, or the index price closing well above that, $28.61 above that, that's how much they've got to pay to close it out. That's $1 million. So when you take away what was collected in the morning, that turns into a loss for the day of $413,000. So that's going to be hard to recover from. So now we'll take a look at QDTE. If you missed Friday's video, I came up with an estimate or guesstimate based on their income. We didn't think it was going to be that, 3.5 cents. Based on the average, what they've been paying for the last month, that's getting us close. But it was a pretty rough down week, and they did not make enough money the previous week. So all that being said, that's how I came up with a guess plus more. All right, I looked at when QDTE fund was in that price range before. I looked at when the NASDAQ was in that range. All right, looking at the IV. So take a lot into account. I came up with a 21.5 cent guesstimate. It depends on when they make their final decision. If they got to make it today and see that they were going to get a nice recovery, then maybe they are going to increase it a little bit from that. But I think I'm giving you kind of the low end. You could probably expect a little more than my guesstimate. But we will all find out Wednesday morning. That's August 6th. As far as the fund performance compared to the index actually outperformed, and that makes sense because the holdings within the fund are deep in the money calls on the NASDAQ, so those are going to increase in value as the fund increases. But when you sell a call off of that, you're kind of capping how much value, how much money you can make, how much you can go up along with the index. So as it as it went up, and then once it reached 23,160, now all of a sudden for every dollar that these are increasing in value, these sold calls are costing that a dollar more. So that's why I'm saying it was capped. So that would make sense as to why on a nice up day, the fund is not going to be able to keep up with the index, because once it hit its ceiling, now it no longer can increase in value anymore. But it still did very well, 1.81% compared to 1.87. There's $836 million being managed in the fund. No change in outstanding shares for over a week now, 23,550,000. That NAV was before the day started, which is a little odd with it being an up day and still being below where that NAV was. So not sure if that's making a lot of sense. Previous distribution, I'm kind of bouncing around too much here, but previous distribution declaration was last Wednesday. Distribution was on Friday, and that was 23, almost 24 cents per share. The only change in the holdings was they added to their September 18th, 2026 purchased calls. They went from 14 to 22 of them at 2,250. So those are, when we say deep in the money, we're not kidding. They are 20,000 deep in the money. Down here, you got your government obligation funds, 28 million. They've got money in their own T-bill. Rather than buying treasuries similar to some of the other funds, they made their own treasury fund. They have a T-bill ETF that you can buy into in Roundhill, and so that's where they've got $48 million parked, and then cash another $1.7 million. All right, next, XDTE. So this morning they sold calls, 646 of them, $4.58 per share is the premium collected, or almost 300,000. 63.15 was the selected strike price. The S&P SPX ended at 6,329.94. That's $14.94 beyond that sold strike. So that's what we're paying here to close it out, or 965,000. Combine the two, it is a loss of 669,000 on the day. Again, it's going to be hard to recover from that this week. So everybody's previous declaration date and next declaration date are going to be the same, last Wednesday and this coming Wednesday, 2 days away. Just like QDTE, where their under 30-day IV increased on the underlying, the 30-day IV of the S&P. Sorry about that. Of the S&P increased as well. It was a volatile week. We looked at how we came up with the guesstimate. Again, those are always going to be on Friday videos. They lost money in that previous week that applies to this, so that won't be the way we make our estimate. So next we go with the average of the last month, about 25.5 cents, but with it being a down week and a losing week, we dropped some off of that, along with looking at what they've paid before in those ranges. And so we guessed 23 again with a rapid recovery that we got today. If they had some time today to finalize that decision, there's a chance that they may go a little higher. But the last one was 25.4 cents per share. There's $402 million assets under management. Again, no change in outstanding shares for over a week now, 9,285,000. NAV and the closing price. These are making a little bit more sense, right? NAV's a little lower, but that is always going to be a day behind. So that's before any market changes today. The holdings download doesn't come out until the following day. So once that increases 1.34%, it'll be a whole lot closer to the closing price of XDTE. Again, nice up day for the S&P, up almost 1.5%. XDTE is going to go up, but then it's going to hit a cap, just like before. As soon as the S&P hit 6,315, it no longer was able to increase in value, because as every contract increased $1 here, it cost $1 more to close here. So there was, that's the cap on that one. You can see the contracts, nothing changed here. I got no increases or decreases in our deep in the money calls that we have purchased, or long calls. And sometimes we just get little changes down here, fluctuations with the cash. Right now we got -$1 million. I don't know how you have a -$1 million, but okay. Finally, RDTE sold 642. Hang on one second. Oh, okay, we did have an increase. So 642 contracts for calls at $2,195 strike, collecting $2.48 per share, or 159,000. The Russell 2000 closed at 2,212 and 30 cents. That is a difference of $17.30, which is over $1 million paying to close it out, minus the premium we collected on the front side, is a loss of $951,000 for the day. So like we mentioned, the change in the holdings, there was an increase of 8 contracts on the $225.17. Yes, you are reading that right. They have flex options available to them that we don't have. So they've got these very funky strike prices. We went over the guesstimate. Again, the Russell fund lost $0.015 on the previous week, not last week, the week before. There's a 2-week delay on these distributions. Their average lately has been 28 cents. My guesstimate was 24 cents. The 30-day IV increased because of the volatility last week. Last week's payment was over 28, just about 29 cents per share. $139 million assets under management, and no change in the shares. 4,160,000 outstanding shares. Again, right, nice up day, 2% plus for the Russell 2000. RDTE was traveling up with it until it was capped, losing dollar for dollar as it was gaining dollar for dollar on its calls, so it was no longer able to keep up. All right, so big picture, right, our value of all of our funds increased, right? Our stock price, our share price increased, but lost money on the trade, on the intraday trade. So hopefully they can make it up tomorrow, and just keep an eye out for the post in the morning and then the video in the evening. All right, thank you for watching. Have a great night. Good luck trading tomorrow.